Hello and welcome to 9 o'clock news. Rajdeep, do you realize what you've done to an entire generation of journalists? We all want to sound like you. But hello and welcome to AKLF. And here you have with me Rajdeep Sardesai, who needs very little introduction. And Rajdeep, I'm saying all this not because I want to flatter you, but I wish I could imitate you. We joined NDTV at almost the same time, and you've gone from strength to strength, and it's wonderful. Congratulations on your extremely insightful book. And if you have an interest in politics, in politicians, actually forget it. If you have an interest in India, I'd say the 500-pager is a must-read. Yes, it's all of 500 pages, but it's a breeze. Now, Rajdeep's book is called The Election That Surprised India. And I want to start with asking you, Rajdeep, who did it surprise? The people, the politicians, the political parties, or was it the media and pollsters? What surprised you the most?
Thank you very much, first of all, for having me here in Kolkata. And, let me return the compliment. Monideepa Banerjie gave me an insight into Bengal politics about 25 years ago. And it was very valuable because my Bengali is terrible. And traveling across this wonderful state was very difficult if I hadn't had Monideepa providing me a helping hand. So I remember that election all those years ago.
You.
So thank you very much for being part of that. You've been an institution in many ways in this city and in television.
Thank you.
I just... who did the election surprise? It surprised me. I mean, I must be honest. Exactly a year ago, when the Ram Mandir was inaugurated and you had all this drumbeat around Prime Minister Modi, you had Nitish Kumar leaving the India Alliance, and there was a general sense around us, to aayega to Modi hi. And this sort of ab ki baar 400 par.
Yeah.
And I think that surround sound and the spectacle of politics that Prime Minister Modi is very good at created the impression that this was a done deal, that there was no need even to have an election, that the election was a formality. And therefore, I think it surprised not just me, but I think it surprised many even more experienced observers of Indian politics. And I'm glad it surprised us, because it restored my faith in this wonderful country called India, which is far more diverse than any individual would like to believe. This is not a one-leader, one-party country. And I think that's why the surprise is a pleasant surprise.
Okay.
I was astonished by the fact that there were Indians who could cut through the noise, despite the media. Not because of the media, but
Absolutely.
Despite the media, were able to see the reality for what it is.
Then I have to ask you one question. Look into the future. What's going to be the name? Wait, let me first tell you that his past two books, in 2014, it was called
The Election That Changed India.
Right, and then the next one is called, in 2019, it's called How Modi Won India. I want you to look into the future, actually, just 5 years from now, and tell me what's going to be the title of your next book.
No more election books.
No?
There are lots of stuff. There's lots of stuff to be done. I think the book, if it comes 5 years from now, could well be on Mr. Manishankar Iyer's party.
Oh.
Because I think the next 5 years will decide whether a party called the Indian National Congress survives, or the reports of its death are grossly exaggerated. And I think it'll be a fascinating story. Going back to 1984, when the Congress won 400 plus seats, to where it is today, it could be the rise and decline of the Congress party, possibly.
Rise and decline?
Decline and demise. I hate to write the obituary of any party, and therefore I won't use the word demise, but clearly in the last 20 years, particularly in the last 10, Monideepa, we have seen Indian politics, the center of gravity, move to the right. And the rise of the BJP is an inevitable consequence of that. How long will that continue? I don't know. But I think that the decline of the Congress, along with the rise of the BJP, is really the political story of our times.
But in India we have reincarnation. So maybe you should hold on to the demise point a little bit,
No, no, it's very interesting. The Congress is moving to a new office on the 15th of January in Delhi.
Okay, okay.
And they've called it Indira Bhavan.
Okay.
And I think it's appropriate because I believe that the Congress party of the Nehru Gandhis expired in 1969. And there is a new party called the Indira Congress. I mean, you know, the Congress doesn't accept this, but that is the reality. For them to hark back to Nehru, Gandhi and the ideals is absolutely, you know, is crappy. Because this is a party now which is entirely different to the party as it was envisaged by its founding fathers, you know, 60, 70 years ago. So I think the Congress keeps reincarnating. The Congress is like the Ganga. You see, you should never write it off because it's just so large and it might well find, you know, new incarnations, you're right. But I still wait to see what that new incarnation will be.
Well, yeah, we'll watch and wait. And then, in the meantime, will you tell me what is it that has changed in India so much that, you know, the grand old party is a write-off. We have a new right-leaning country, in fact. So what's changed? What's changed in its politics? How has politics changed in India? Very different from even when we started in television, 1994.
You know, I started in print in 1988. And I often tell this story. There was an election in 1989. And I was this young, fresh-faced, 24-year-old journalist. And I went for a BJP rally for the first time. And I heard this rallying call. जो हिंदू हित की बात करेगा वही देश पे राज करेगा.
1989?
1989. That was the first election where the BJP rises in the piggybacking on the Ram Janmabhoomi movement. And I remember coming back to my office and telling the news editor about this, you know, this kind of call that I had heard, जो हिंदू हित की बात करेगा वही देश पे राज करेगा. And I remember him saying, this is all nonsense. It's all marginal stuff. It will have no impact. 35 years later, what was marginal has got normalized. Today, if you talk the language of जो हिंदू हित की बात करेगा वही देश पे राज करेगा, there are people who believe this is the mainstream. And I think what's happened over time is we've allowed what was marginal and fringe to become mainstream because the centrist space has been ceded by political forces that should have challenged these forces unapologetically and unequivocally. But because you ran with the secular hare and hunted with the communal hound,
correct,
over the years, you paid a heavy price for it. And once you release the genie of religion into politics, it's very difficult to put it back into the bottle. Now you have to face the real challenge of how do you deal with religious identity. Identity politics is very powerful, especially in North India, but also, dare I say, in some parts, including where we are today.
Identity politics in Bengal. I'll come to questions on Bengal in a minute, but I also want to ask you that what does it mean? The politics has changed. Have the people changed in India? I mean, how does BJP continue to remain in power despite its divisive, othering politics? I mean, sitting in Kolkata, I can ask this question.
No, no, look, the BJP, like it or not, has captured what I call the zeitgeist of 21st century India. There were three changes, I believe, that took place post-1991. I mean, broadly speaking, all with M. I mean, I'm doing a Modi here. He likes all these. Mandal, Mandir and Market. All these three forces came together post-1991. And I believe what I call not Hindutva now, but Moditva, combines Mandal, Market and Mandir in some form or the other. Someone gave another analogy. They used the word to me, Hind.
Correct.
H for Hindutva, I for infrastructure, N for nationalism, D for delivery. And they will find even in audiences like this, somewhere or the other you will find yourself attracted to what Hind is. Someone is attracted by Hindutva, someone is attracted, oh look at the roads, look at the highways, infrastructure. Someone will talk about nationalism, we become a Desh Bhakt. And someone will talk about delivery. Look, I'm getting, through digital technology, Mani Shankar Iyer's former Prime Minister said only 15 paise reach the people. Now the government says through digital technology, The 1 rupee reaches the people whom it's meant for. So I think the BJP has captured the zeitgeist. You and I may see them as divisive. There are voters out who believe that they are an antidote or an answer to the so-called Nehruvian consensus that they believe has broken down and we need a new India. There's an entire India born after 1991 in this audience.
True. Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to hark back to Nehru and Gandhi or even an Indira. They are Manmohanomics. They are the children of Manmohan Singh.
Absolutely.
They are not ideological. They are transactional. They want to know what is in it for me. I see more and more voters telling me, please tell me what is in it for me in this election. Forget your ideology. I'm not worried about Constitution, Samvidhan khatre mein hai. I'm worried about what is in it here and now for me.
But you're speaking in a state, or at least, I don't know, many of you are probably the same vintage as Rajdeep and me. And Rajdeep, you know, we grew up with all kinds of idealism. You know, make the world a better place, do the right thing, be nice, be good. You know, I mean, think of the... I mean, isn't that what you sort of grew up with as a kid? And that's what I did. And then suddenly we seem to have failed in achieving any of those ideals. I don't know how many of you agree with it, but I feel that way.
No, but many of the so-called idealists turned out to be extremely corrupt and rotten. Let's be honest. I mean, I keep saying this. The Congress party seems to be poor, but its leaders seem rather rich. Mr. Mani Shankar Iyer may be an exception. But I know numerous. I met a Congress. I heard about this story about a Congress leader who's bought a beach somewhere off the coast of Thailand, an entire beach. Former minister in a government. Now this so-called elite, which spoke about idealism, has over time allowed that idealism to evaporate by its naked corruption. And therefore along comes a leader, and we've seen this across the world, a so-called populist, nationalist populist who says, I'm going to fix it. I'm the guy who you need to trust. He may not be able to fix it, but he's able to communicate and talk directly to the people and convince them, just vote for me, and I'm going to get rid of the old order. That's why Mr. Modi constantly targets the so-called Latvians, English-speaking elite.
Correct.
And tries to project himself as the hero of this neo-middle class. So I think there is this shift that has taken place, partly demographic, a younger India post-1991 that doesn't have even the remotest idea of the idealism of the freedom movement. And for this India, politics is extremely transactional now.
So goodbye to John Lennon and his Imagine. I think that's kind of history now. But anyway, let's move on. We have to tackle what you have often called the elephant in the room in India, and that is what you and I are part of, and that is the media. What has been the media's role in all of this? You have an absolutely super chapter in this on the Godi media, but you talk about much more than that. Have we failed?
It needs another book. To be very honest, there must come a time when someone must courageously show the media the mirror. I've tried in this chapter to the extent that I could, but look at what we've done. You and I were part of a channel which today is owned by what is either the richest or the second richest businessman in what was a brazen takeover, hostile in a way, done by virtually making the process the punishment against the pioneer of the news television industry. I mean, to think about it, that Prannoy Roy was not even allowed to leave the country to celebrate his wife's 70th birthday in 2018. And people didn't raise a red flag and say enough is enough. It's an absolute shame and an affront to the way the media has conducted itself and the way the government has used the process to punish the media. I mean, after his company is sold, the same investigating officers turn around and say, we have no evidence. And as I cite in the book, there is this immigration official who meets me purely serendipitously on a flight and tells me, you're the person from NDTV? I said, yes. Please tell Dr. Roy, I didn't do it, I had orders from above. What kind of a shameful example is that? I mean, forget about even NDTV, small news digital sites like NewsClick. Their interns had their mobiles and computers snatched away by the Delhi special cell at 6 a.m. in the morning. Where was the protest? Where was civil society which will protest for RG Kar, but will not wake up when something doesn't happen outside your comfort zone?
Absolutely.
I mean, so the media is a story in itself. I'm not saying that it all started in 2014. It's not as if the Congress party didn't bring the defamation bill. It's not as if Indira Gandhi didn't bring the emergency.
Elected autocracy, that's what we have become. I mean, I don't know if you agree with that. And you have to give that media is not the only institution that is tottering. A whole lot of others are. And imagine, we haven't had a census. Never have I seen that.
We still haven't heard when the census, but look, the elected autocracy is not just true of Delhi. Kolkata is no different. You know, there are cartoonists arrested in this state for criticizing the chief minister. A Facebook post can land you in jail even in Bengal. So I keep saying this, Angrez chale gaye, mindset chhod gaye. So whoever comes to power now comes to power with the mindset of being rulers. That's the problem, and we've almost accepted it. We are complicit in our acceptance. When we see a VIP cavalcade with the Lal Battis moving through Kolkata or Delhi, we just accept it. That wo VVIP hai, that's the way they are. You know, a chief minister who says, I'm an Aam Aadmi chief minister, will then build himself an even bigger bungalow the moment he becomes chief minister. It's become inured to our political system. I think the bigger challenge, therefore, is money power. And how money power is corroding and lumpenizing politics now to the point of no return. I mean, in my home state of Maharashtra, the other day, a sarpanch was killed, his eyes were gouged out, only because he was trying to stop the extortion done by the henchman of a minister who refuses to resign. And that's true across this country. You saw a young journalist who was killed by a road contractor who belongs to the Congress party there. So it's across parties, it's a complete lumpenization. And I think that, to my mind, is the real threat to democracy as it stands today.
Agree with you on all points except one. At least in West Bengal, our chief minister doesn't really go around with sirens. Her other party members might, but not she. She's made a point of it. Wouldn't you agree? But
no, look, you know, she's a strange figure. She's almost in some ways reminiscent of the older India in some parts of her life. I mean, we can criticize her for lots of other aspects, including governance. But I think the fact that at least somewhere there is and that's why she's still a mass leader.
Absolutely.
You know, you like her, you don't like her. These gatherings in particular, I find may find that she's not your cup of tea, but out there she is a mass leader. And there are very few mass leaders left in this country. And one of the reasons to become a mass leader is when you remain one with the people. And far too many of our leaders now live in their fortress-like bungalows and colonies, not colonies, bungalows, cut off from the masses. They don't do press conferences. They won't interact with Aam Aadmi. Have you ever seen the Prime Minister of this country hug a farmer who's a farmer's wife the farmer's committed suicide? But you'll see him with Raj Kapoor's grandchildren celebrating the 100 years of Raj Kapoor. I mean, it reflects to me what we are. We want to associate ourselves with privilege. This country is not a privilege. This country is a country of its masses. And I believe that those who associate themselves with the masses are the ones who survive. So like her or not, you cannot deny that Mamata Banerjee is a mass leader. And one of the last remaining mass leaders in the country at the moment.
Absolutely. And you know, actually, we sure met in 2001 for the 2001 elections, but the last time we met was in 2021. And what an election that was, Rajdeep. Mamata Banerjee on a wheelchair with a leg in the plaster. What did you take away from it about her?
I'm not still sure how bad the injury was.
Oh.
But look, politics is about optics, right? It's about sending out the right message. Mr. Modi is also a master at that. Good politicians know how to use the visual imagery to communicate to to their audiences. Yeah, I think, you know, it's a pity with a lot of these leaders who are mass leaders, they are unable to make the transition always to being really effective administrators and people of governance. I mean, in an ideal world, you want to see both. You want to see people who are mass leaders, but also are committed to clean, wholesome governance. You know,
Do you have an example you can think of something as ideal as that? A mass leader with a clean, wholesome image and great governance?
No.
Never comes in one package,
No.
sadly.
No, it
right?
doesn't come in. Yeah, Mr. Iyer seems to have a name. Javandana, she's asking today.
Today.
And today's India. No, Naveed, no, look, and let's not get into that debate. You know, we could throw up all kinds of names, but I think it reflects how politics, as I said earlier, has got lumpenized. It's become, you know, I was staggered again in my home state of Maharashtra, which had elections. People I've known since I was a young rookie journalist telling me, we spent 50 crores on this election. One MLA spent 50 crores.
Unbelievable.
His rival must have also spent 30, 40, 50 crores. So you've got 100 crores going into one election for a Vidhan Sabha. So the person who wins wants a rate of return on investment. You know, across Maharashtra, one of the things I saw while traveling this time were the number of roads that were being repaired just before the elections. And what the sort of story was that all these are monies that have been given in the last 6 months to them. They in turn give it to contractors. They get their cut. The contractor gets the cut. People think the roads have been repaired. Only to find 2 years later the potholes are back.
And another election is due. That's the way we function, election to election.
It is. I mean, you know, in a way, but Monideepa, I'm happy we have so many elections. A, because we need to survive. I mean, think about it, one nation, one election. The channel won't want me for 5 years. But I also think that's elections is a way of holding people accountable. I mean, if we don't have elections regularly, these guys will get away with blue murder every 6 months. So we should have more elections, because elections is, I hope along with elections, we had something more innovative like a right to recall. If an MLA or an MP has not performed, people must have some way of holding him or her accountable, maybe midway or midterm. We need something more imaginative than just saying one nation, one election, which I think goes against the basic federal, diverse compact of this country. I mean, one of the reasons I believe this election surprised many people, because many people forgot that India is the most diverse country in the world. I mean, the greatness, the genius of this country lies in its diversity. You know, anyone who says, oh, to sab South India hai. Arey, South India mein bhi itni diversity hai.
True.
You know, that to my mind is something that we forget all too easily.
I'm going to drag you back to Mamata Banerjee because I have a question. Simple question. What do you see as her future? Is she ever going to be able to get to Delhi? And, you know, Delhi Chalo has been a favorite slogan of hers, and Bengal has been, you know, rallying behind that cry. We've never had a Bengali prime minister. We did have a president. But anyway, the point is that she almost maneuvered herself to Delhi, and now there's India, and that is on the brink of a collapse. So what lies ahead for Mamata Banerjee?
I think Mamata Banerjee's strength is also her weakness. You know, she remains, as I said, a mass leader, but a mass leader of Bengal. And, you know, who can very astutely play the politics of Bengali subnationalism. I have a lovely little story in the book about how when Mamata Banerjee tried to go to Goa.
Yeah.
And I remember asking her, why are you coming to Goa? She said, no, there's a large minority population. You people like fish, you like football. I said, Didi, the football, the fish, the population of Bengal and Goa are completely distinct. First of all, Goa is a complete Byzantine politics. 30,000 is the average size of a constituency in Goa. You need 10,000 votes to win. You can buy an election there. Mamata Banerjee got 0 seats there.
True.
Prashant Kishore, the so-called Chanakya, the wizard, won't tell you that he tried to woo politicians in Goa for the TMC. Didn't work. Everywhere you went in Goa, there were posters of Mamata Banerjee. Didn't work. They lost their deposits. So I think Mamata Banerjee's strength is, like her or not, she strikes a chord with those who still find Bengali subnationalism very appealing. But at the same time, that because she's a strong regional leader, she doesn't appeal to another part of the country. So I think, given, let me also give her one positive. Her life story is quite remarkable.
Absolutely.
For a woman politician, she hasn't had the benefit that other women politicians had of a male patron. Jayalalitha became Jayalalitha because of MGR, not because of Jayalalitha. Mayawati benefited because of Kashiram. Mamata Banerjee is the one leader, the one woman leader who's come up on her own, like it or not, and in the process decimated the old Congress. And maybe if the Congress was able to bring together all these leaders, there was a time just a year ago, I counted there were 9 former congressmen who were chief ministers. The moment you leave the Congress, you seem to do rather well. So, Mamata Banerjee is a strange character.
Fascinating.
Fascinating, yes.
There's no other word for her, right? Now, we are running out of time. There's one question, a couple of questions I still need to ask. So, the top one is, we are speaking on a day, Rajdeep, when the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has made headlines today for a podcast he's done for the first time. What would you have given to do the 2-hour chat with him? And when are you going to do it?
First of all, what is this podcast? You see, I thought podcast was meant to be audio. Podcast has now turned out to be a vodcast, which is video. So, let's not, it's my first podcast. It's an interview. And again, who have you done it with? A co-founder of a company which is a $1 billion startup. Right? So you've chosen someone to again reflect aspirational India. Good for you. The last interview I did with Prime Minister Modi was 2012, where he made me sit on the footboard of a bus on a highway, and every time I asked him a question he didn't like, he looked straight in front. But I think for me it was one of the few moments of journalism that I take great pride in. Mr. Modi is now up there. He's in stratosphere. He said in an interview, I think 6 months ago, कि मुझे भगवान ने
बनाया है. Biological, non-biological.
I don't think I'm, I'm non-biological. So if you're non-biological, who am I? I'm a mere mortal.
I will say that in the podcast, though, he's said 2 revolutionary things in comparison to non-biological. He said, I'm a human being and I make mistakes. So that's the headline in many of the papers today. And Rajdeep, I have to let you go for the audience. But before that, quick rapid fire. When did you start writing the book?
2023.
And
I started writing it 2023 in March of 23 with the idea that I was going to call it Conquest. Because I saw what has happened in the last 10 years, if you look at the previous 2 books as well, as the conquest of India, a kind of Ashwamedh Yagna. But after the elections, I changed the title and I had to rework a lot of the chapters.
yeah, I also believe you considered Hat Trick as a title and then changed that at the last minute.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was one of the other titles.
So what's your next book? People ask me never to ask this question, but do you have a book in mind? What will it be about?
I'd love to write a book on cricket once
I
again.
was just thinking.
It is my great romance. And when I think of cricket, I have a smile on my face. When I think of politics, I get angry. I always say when Mohammad Shami is bowling from one end and Umesh Yadav from the other, you think of them not as Muslims and Yadavs, but as Indians. Cricket does that. In politics, they become vote banks. Yadav vote bank and a Muslim vote bank. So maybe particularly a book that can link cricket to the city of my birth, not my birth, but the city of my passion, which is Mumbai. So if I can somewhere bring cricket and Mumbai together in a social geography, the great Ashish Nandi is here.
Oh.
Maybe he can guide me, nobody better than him to do it. So maybe I'll try and do that.
Okay, so you've been away from the 9 o'clock news for how long now?
6 weeks.
And he's just told me that in those 6 weeks he's done 20 interviews to promote his book. Are you going to go back? What next?
I'm supposed to go back on the 1st of Feb.
Is there any chance of you following in your wife's footsteps? We'd love to see you somewhere there.
No way. Whatever little I've seen, it's a complete no-go area. I don't know what madness grips people to enter politics. It requires a extremely hard, tough. I mean, it requires leather-like skin, which I don't have. I'm too much of a softie. And I just don't see how I can make a difference at the moment through politics, given the state of Indian politics. I wish I could make some difference, not just to politics, but to public life. But I don't even know anymore whether I can make a difference through journalism. And that's where we can discuss on another day, another time, the identity crisis that many of us are going through.
Thank you. How many of you still want him to be on 9 o'clock news? There you are. You know what your next short-term job is.
There were equally half the audience which doesn't want. So it's okay. We are a 50-50 country.
No, they were just shy. It's okay.
Rupert Murdoch once said, anchors are like buses, there's always one coming round the corner.
No, but you've been a fabulous bus, and I'm waiting to, see you on the roads once again as soon as possible. I believe his mother has told him that, she misses him at 9 o'clock and doesn't know what else to watch. And I think that's a story many of us could sympathize with over here. Okay, over to the audience, if there are questions, and I can see lots of hands going up. I hope there's a mic somewhere. You'll never be able to hear with ambient sound.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, Chitrajit here.
Do introduce yourselves, yeah.
Chitrajit.
Yeah, Chitrajit.
So, I am from Allahabad, and in this election, we were basically campaigning as part of a civil society against communalism, not for any party as such. And the response on the ground was surprising, because more than 80% of them were saying that finally someone came to us. For the last many years, we have not even been voting.
Question.
And the question is about hope, that people, even after seeing that, we were not hoping that anything would happen in a city like ours, but it happened. So what has changed in this politics that we cannot even hope?
I have a chapter in my book called Democracy Zinda Hai, Stories of Hope. Look, this is I remain an optimist about this great country. I tell you, for example, the story of Sanjana Jatav, 26-year-old Dalit mother of two, defeated the chief minister's candidate in Bharatpur. She had no resources. She had to crowdsource. One of her weapons was Instagram. She became an Instagram sensation. But please think about it. 26-year-old Dalit mother of two. Husband was a constable in the police. The government rang him up and said, we will sack you if your wife contests. He's a tough man. He said, "Aapne ye mujhe kaha hai, ab meri biwi zarur ladegi." And she won. This is a country called India. You see, so the problem is there are far too many entitled dinners across this country, or indeed these lumpens who give us little hope. But for every one of them, there is a Sanjana Jatav. There is a Rajkumar Roat, young 31-year-old tribal leader traveling across Baswara with a t-shirt saying New York. Biker. Defeated a 6-time MLA. Again crowdsourced. Geniben Thakur, 48-year-old housewife, first Congress candidate to win in Gujarat for 20 years. People around her were raided. People close to her were warned, threatened. Don't contest the elections. She did and won. So there is hope. India is not so bad. But we need to fight for that India. We need to provide like you did. Go out there and tell stories of the real India.
Lovely. Next. Can I take one over there? Yeah. You? Yes, yes. Sure. Okay, let's make it crisp questions and...
Go ahead.
Who's next? Who's got a mic? Okay,
So
I'm sorry.
my question to you is, in the podcast yesterday, the Prime Minister mentioned Mahatma Gandhi at least 5 times. He said that we all should have communication skills like Mahatma Gandhi. So from the top level, the message is Mahatma Gandhi is the ultimate hero of our nation. But when you have leaders like Sadhvi Pragya and right-wing leaders, from the low-level, ground-level leaders criticizing Mahatma Gandhi, I mean, there is no action taken against those leaders. So what is your view on that?
Your question has the answer in it.
Exactly.
The one thing that Mahatma Gandhi stood for is compassion and empathy. Show me the compassion and empathy among most of our leaders today. I mean, traveling again through my home state of Maharashtra, meeting widows of farmers who've committed suicide. No political leader has come to meet those women. Their husbands committed suicide often for as little as 80,000 and 1 lakh rupees. You think Mahatma Gandhi would sit in a bungalow in Delhi when thousands of people have committed suicide in the last decade? He would be among them. Reciting Mahatma's name, showing his spectacles, all that is easy. What you need to do is be the man and imbibe his values, which none of them do.
Yesterday also Kangana Ranaut made a statement on Indira Gandhi.
Oh, please, can we avoid
Thank
it?
you so much.
Can we move the mic, please? There is a gentleman there, and then a gentleman in the second row behind Anjum. We have 3 minutes left.
Yeah, sure.
I'll have short answers.
Yeah, sure. Good evening, Rajdeep, sir. So my question is...
Your name?
Yeah, my name is Anton, and I have a question. I'll stick to the title of your book. So my question is, on the pretext of the elections, do you think, after having seen what happened in your own home state, like people elected one government, but the party was split into two, and the party that was in the opposition actually came into the government after the elections happened. So do you think the next, the title of your next book should be the election system that shocked India? What is your take on the election system on the whole?
Nothing shocks us anymore. I'll tell you something very funny. The other day, I was in Mumbai staying at the Trident, and I met one of these MLAs who had switched over. And he said, "Why don't you come and meet me in my suite?" He seemed to have the most expensive suite in the hotel. And then his assistant, who I've known for a while, tells me, "Saab, as part of the deal of switching over, boss has got 2 years permanent suite in Oberoi."
Wow.
So nothing surprises me about Indian politics anymore. I think there should be a rule. You really should have a rule under the anti-defection law. You will not be made a minister for 10 years if you switch parties.
Truly.
Unless, you see, that's the real reform. This one nation, one election is just a trial balloon to distract. It's a weapon of what I call WMD, weapon of mass distraction. Do some serious reforms. The serious reform could be, if you defect, for 10 years you cannot be a minister. Then hopefully that suite in the Oberoi will go to someone else.
Great. I
Thank
hope
you.
somebody is
Thank you.
listening.
And I think that's
Sorry, I'll
what,
come to-
Samvidhan Khatre Mein Hai is really.
Okay, good
Rajdeep,
point.
you said your next book will be on cricket, right?
Yes.
As a cricket
I hope.
buff, yes, no, it should be. As a cricket buff, it's a humble request to you. In that particular book, please kindly keep a chapter on Eden Gardens of 1st of January 1967, when there was a cricket riot in stadium. Your father was the witness of that, although he was dropped from the Indian cricket team. Nobody ever wrote in details. It's a humble request to you. Rajdeep Sardesai's son will write on that.
Wonderful idea.
Okay, I will keep that in mind.
Wonderful. Okay. The gentleman at the back. Please, could you give it to him at the back in the red sweater? You've got a mic. Go right ahead.
My question was on the Bharat Adivasi Party and Rajkumar Raut. So we saw them making some rapid strides in the Baswara region of Rajasthan, followed by Ratlam in MP, and in Chhattisgarh we had the Gondwana Ganatantra Party, which already damaged the Congress in the elections. So on one point of time we see the Congress moving towards a more Ambedkarite tone, and then we see these regional parties taking over their space. So what do you think the Congress should do in the next 5 years to regain these spaces?
You know, the Congress party, as I said, over the years has never missed an opportunity to miss an opportunity. And one of those opportunities, you see, you cannot, how is Rahul Gandhi going to represent tribal interests better than Rajkumar Rawat? Rajkumar Rawat lives there, is a tribal, represents the identity there. I believe Rahul Gandhi is trying to make the Congress ideological. Good luck to him. Nothing wrong in that. But how are you going to make a party of power into a party of an ideologically driven party? The Congress person out there is only worried about the next election. Rahul Gandhi is talking about reinventing the party for the next 10, 20 years. You're going to have to be practical, pragmatic in politics as well. So I think I have no advice for any political party. But I find it a bit incongruous that you talk about Ambedkarism, you talk about these ideologically driven agendas, but at the core, all your party wants is power at any cost. and the mismatch is apparent to lots of Indians. Look at what's happened in Delhi. You were with the Aam Aadmi Party 6 months ago fighting the election today. Today you're at daggers drawn. ये public है, ये सब जानती है. You can't, you need a cohesive identity and an ideology which many of the smaller regional parties in some way or the other do represent.
There has been so much Congress bashing here, and we have Mr. Manishankar Iyer. May I request him to give us a sound bite on this? Time is up.
No, there's no Congress bashing. This is the problem. I'm only giving what I think is part of the problem. I'm happy to bash all of them.
Mr. Iyer, I know you have a session later. Anjum, would you ask him? Would you care to say a couple of words?
Only with the utmost reluctance.
Thank you.
Because for many of the reasons that Rajdeep Sardesai has set out, I have been completely marginalized in the party. I have no access to anybody at all, and even the chaprasis in the AICC are beginning to ignore me and do not offer to give me a cup of tea.
Oh, no.
So in these circumstances, all I can hope for, I joined the Congress not because of Rajiv Gandhi, not because of Sonia Gandhi, not because of Rahul Gandhi, but because I was 6 years old when Jawaharlal Nehru became the Prime Minister of India. I was 23 when he died. So my entire growing up, from the age of 6 to the age of 23, was in that era when there was no distinction between politics and ideology.
Correct.
Ideology was politics. And if I cannot take my party back to that, the best is to be on the sidelines, because to switch parties now
It's impossible.
will make no sense at all. So I don't want to go anywhere. I'm quite happy where I am. My wife has enabled me to overcome my disappointment, my huge personal disappointment at being effectively kicked out when I should have been at the peak. But that's it, that's life. And I have therefore always told youngsters who ask me whether they should come into politics that the only lesson they should learn is that in politics there is no upward trajectory. You never know when the only rule you can say is that when you're at the summit, the next step is going to take you to the bottom of the valley. And when you're at the bottom of the valley, there's every prospect of being able to climb back to the summit.
Correct.
Except when you reach the age of 84. And I'm 84. Thank you.
Congratulations. That's
But I must say, age is just a number.
it's just a number.
I asked Sharad Pawar is 84, and in the Maharashtra campaign, I asked him, sir, is this your last election? He looked at me with a look glaring at me. What do you mean by that question? I said, sir, the next election you'll be 89. He said, so?
Wow.
And then after the interview was over, he said, that was a very wrong question you asked. So politicians never retire. Someone told me Mr. Modi because Mr. Modi supposedly has a Margdarshak Mandal, where at 75 you're supposed to retire. So I said, Margdarshak Mandals are only meant for your competitors, never for yourself. So I don't see him retiring, and particularly since Manishankar idol, Jawaharlal Nehru was Prime Minister for 17 years, and Mr. Modi is so obsessed with Nehru, he will want to remain with us at the very minimum till 2031 when he completes 17 years. So he's not going anywhere in a hurry, I'm afraid.
Perfect time for me to ask a bad question, Rajdeep.
Yes.
If I may take another minute, and that is, I believe you're a great Kishore fan. I can't ask you to do the pole dance over here, there'll be a riot, but one line of Kishore, or even Rabindra Sangeet.
No, don't destroy this great, Bengalis have the most beautiful voices. So I'm not even going to try and sing Rabindra Sangeet. But, I just think I have a caller tune, which is actually Mohammad Rafi, though my love is Kishore Kumar.
Go for it.
You want me to sing?
Yes.
मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया. I'm not singing. मैं जिंदगी का साथ निभाता चला गया, हर फिक्र को धुएं में उड़ाता चला गया. I don't smoke, but I just love the song. So I think, I think when you're down and depressed, turn to Indian music. It's the best way to sort of live through life. My favorite Kishore song is Zindagi ke safar mein guzar jate hai wo maqam wo fir nahi aate. I mean, that is magic. And much like politics has degenerated, even music, I'm afraid Hindi film music in particular has fallen from the heights. So I am a 60s and 70s person living in 2024 when it comes to music. And as Mr. Iyer is in politics as well.
Wonderful. Thank you. I can't keep you anymore. We'll be thrown out of the stage. Thank you, Rajdeep. That was absolutely
Thank
delightful.
you very much. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.